Should I open YouTube and check the channel for the comments on phone?
What's up? Hello, hello. How are you all? Hi, Joel. So good to see you. Hey, Khan. It's good to see you again. Ritesh says, finally, two great Indian entrepreneur and growth hackers to guide. Definitely, I really regard Sujay Pawar. I get to know him like almost 2 years back. I met him once, and I think he's a fantastic guy, and nobody could be better than him to teach about what stuff about WordPress. He runs some of the he runs one of the most popular WordPress theme. We have a special announcement to make for that as well, so wait for that. Hi Vikram, hi Mohammed. So if you guys can hear me loud and clear, just type yes. Type yes if you guys can hear me loud and clear. And like we do it all the time, let me know which country and which state you are from. Type your country and state in the comment section. All right, so we have about 40 people live. We are waiting for next 61. Without further delay, let me introduce you to Sujay. Today we are going to talk about WordPress speeding up WordPress. And let me welcome Sujay first. All right. Hi Sujay, how are you?
Hey Harsh, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. So good to see you. And how is it going in Pune?
Pune is under a strict lockdown for 10 days. So
Yeah.
I'm chilling at home, trying to stay home, staying safe, taking care. I hope everyone else is staying home and taking care as well and trying to make the most out of the lockdown and the situation that we have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a time that one have to be smart for themselves and for their family. So better be home, be safe, stay home, be safe. Like that's one thing, guys. Remember. Uh, all right, we have a lot of people. We have Node Gaming also, who says his site is hacked. So sorry to hear that. Uh, All right, Tushar. Okay, so before we get started, I have one quick question. Guys, if you can hear both of us loud and clear, uh, give us a score 10. If you can't hear us loud and clear, give us a score 1. So, and then we'll get started. Sujay has a lot to cover today. He will be talking about how to speed up WordPress. By the way, Sujay runs WP Astra WordPress theme, which recently crossed, Sujay, how many millions?
We are the only theme that has crossed 1 million activation mark. That means more than 1 million websites are using our Astra theme. And we are the only theme besides the default WordPress themes like 2020, 2019, I believe. So
Right.
yeah, it's a huge milestone for us and we are in kind of a celebration mood.
Definitely 1 million active installation and being the first private WordPress theme to do that, dude, congratulations. Like,
Thank
congratulations
you.
from
Thank you.
my side, from my whole readers. And yeah, so I think, yes, we can hear you. Perfect. We have people from Rajkot, we have people from Shami. So Sujay, here is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna let you run the show now. From here on, please guide us. Let us know how to speed up WordPress. I believe with the plethora of knowledge you have, you can you would be. I would be. I'm pretty excited to learn a lot from you today. With that, I'll let you run the show, and I'm here in the background in case if you need anything. Just give me a shout. I'm always here. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Harsh. Hey guys. So how many of you are bloggers? If you're a blogger, please say type blogger. If you're a e-commerce website owner, please type e-commerce. If you just run a website as a hobby, type, just a hobby website. I would love to hear from you guys so that I can present you guys accordingly. All right. It seems that there are people from Jalandhar, Punjab. Mohit Kumar is asking, when are you going to include job portal WordPress theme? Sunil, Sanil looks like he has a hobby website. Shubham has a blog. Thanks, Isyak. Good to see you here, blogger. Blogger. All right. It looks like a lot of us are bloggers here. Awesome, blogger. Awesome. A lot of us seem to be bloggers. All right. So let me share my screen. Is my screen visible? Please type yes if you guys can see my screen. Affiliate marketer. If you guys can see my screen, please type screen so that I would know. I'm looking at your comments. It's great to see so many people live. Looks like we have 63 so far. Awesome. And good to see you. A lot of you are bloggers. Ankur Agarwal seems to be e-commerce website owner. Some people are running agency. That's fantastic. Some people are freelancers. All right, perfect. So you guys can see my screen. So as you guys already know, today we are going to see how to speed up WordPress and learn the best practices to speed up a WordPress website. Are you guys excited? Type 10 if you guys are excited to learn how to speed up a website. I assume you all have a website. Some of you are bloggers, some of you are e-commerce website owners, some of you just have a website for hobby, which is great, and some of you have agency or freelance business, which is fantastic. All right, so little bit about myself. I am Sujay. I am from Pune, India, and I co-founded Brainstorm Force in 2009. It's been almost 11 or 12 years now that we are running this company. I started this company just as a hobby, out of hobby. Out of hobby, just when I was trying to design websites for my friends. And that's how I basically started the company. And today, after 12 years, we power about 3 million WordPress websites. Astra theme is one of our flagship products, which recently crossed 1 million active installations mark. And it is the only theme that is installed on more than 1 million websites. Besides Astra, we have quite a few popular products such as Ultimate Addons for various page builders, Schema Pro, which helps improve SEO of website, Convert Pro, which helps webmasters increase conversions on their websites, and so on. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a WordPress enthusiast. I would love to speed up your websites. So most of you probably already know like speed really matters. I get asked a lot of times like, hey, I mean, my website is slow and how can I speed it up? My website is slow and there are not many conversions happening. How can I speed up the website? And this is a very, very common, question that I get asked. And the answer is quite like, simple as well as difficult. It depends on how you take it. There are many guides and publications online which tell how to speed up a website, but they, ask to install simple plugins and complete a checklist, which helps obviously. But in this session, I wanted to cover the basics and cover the fundamentals, how you can speed up a website. Understanding fundamentals is very, very important. And speed obviously matters, like 2 seconds delay causes 51% decrease in session length, which means that if your website loads like little slow by 2 seconds, 51% users would not visit other pages of your website, which means people would visit your website, but other pages won't be seen by them, and conversion usually happens in the second half of their journey. So speed really matters. And for bloggers, Google has started using website speed as a ranking factor, and especially on the mobile. Otherwise, you might already have seen on the mobile devices, Google shows slow or such warnings, and sometimes Google would not even prefer your website to be shown in the search rankings if your website is loading slow. So speed really matters. Uh, so yeah, before now we dig into how to speed up a website. First of all, let's take a look how a web page actually loads. Like what happens exactly when you type a website URL in a browser and how a web page loads, right? That is how we are going to optimize at every single step. So whenever you open a browser and type any website URL, these are the probably 10 steps that these are the 10 steps that happen before any page is loaded up. DNS. Are you guys aware what is a DNS? I would like to know, how many of you are familiar with technical words such as DNS, server, rendering, and things as such? Manoj says yes. Ankur wants to know how to configure W3 total cache. So yes, we are here taking a look at like a process that happens when a web page loads. Yep, DNS means domain name server. So whenever you type any website URL, what happens is the domain gets converted into an IP address, and that IP address is the address of the server, which which needs to load before your website can be seen by the user. So the domain name needs to be converted into the IP address. That is what it's called DNS lookup. And after the IP address is found, after the DNS lookup, it connects to the server, which is where your WordPress website is. And WordPress is made up of PHP and database. So PHP and database is processed. And after that processing, HTML is generated. And that HTML is sent to the browser. Browser then processes HTML and finds bunch of links like images, CSS, and then it again requests all those static assets to the server, right? And then again, browser connects to servers and requests those static assets, and those are downloaded. And it's all the files that it needs to render a page. This is how a web page loads, right? So in this session, instead of just telling like install this plugin or check these options, do not check these options, and things as such, I want you guys to understand how a web page loads. I want you guys to understand these 10 steps in details so that we can optimize each step, and then that is how we are going to speed up the website. I'm not going to talk a lot about plugins, or I'm not going to talk a lot about which are the best plugins or which are the best caching plugins to optimize a website. I want you guys to understand the fundamentals so that each step can be optimized and your website can be made faster, right? So first step, DNS. Like I said previously, DNS is a domain name server. Like each website is ideally, actually hosted on some web server which has just IP address, right? And then IP addresses are very difficult to remember. So we attach a domain name to those IP addresses. And when users visit any domain, it needs to be converted into the IP address. So that, conversion process is called DNS lookup, right? So probably if you guys can see my screen, you can search for solve DNS and DNS speed test. And let's take a look at how fast is your DNS speed. You can do that with me. Let's do it together. solvdns.com/DNS speed is the website. Or you can just Google and find any tool that you would like to. Maybe just Google search DNS lookup speed test. So there are tools that you can open, personalize DNS speed test to check speed. So in this tool, you can check like what is your DNS lookup speed. So let's take a look at how google.com is. So it looks like google.com on average, DNS is resolved in just 7 milliseconds and like that. In other tool, it seems this tool is showing around 27 seconds. Of course, things would vary based on the tools and how they check it. This particular tool is checking in various locations. So in Dallas, it loads in 9.76 milliseconds. And similarly, you can check your own DNS lookup speed. So if you are using any domain service such as GoDaddy or Namecheap or things like that, some companies have really bad DNS lookup time. So I would really encourage you guys to start from here. Make sure that your DNS is loaded as fast as possible. Cloudflare is my personal favorite, where we host or register all our domain names. And it is one of the fastest DNS lookup service. So our website Astra is registered on Cloudflare. And as you would see, the DNS is probably resolved very fast. Even it seems that right now it is resolving even faster than Google. So in just 4.87 milliseconds, Cloudflare is resolving our DNS. So this is where you should probably start. Is this clear? Ankur says Cloudflare is the best CDN. Has anyone tested their own DNS lookup time? How much time is your DNS lookup taking? Probably you guys can check on your own websites and see how much time is it taking. Prasta Sarthi is asking, is using Cloudflare slower the load time? Well, not necessarily. Cloudflare is made up to speed up the website. It offers a bunch of tools to speed up a website, including free CDN, including free DNS and things as such. So Cloudflare is made to speed up a website, but there are some controversies. Some people say it slows down TTFB, but there are some disadvantages as well as advantages that we can cover in the next few minutes. All right, Harsh says it takes 3.94 ms to load his website, which is pretty amazing. Bhavik, it seems 50 ms for your site. Ritesh Sharma is asking a very interesting question. What if domain registrar is somewhere and pointed to Cloudflare? Well, domain registrar is where your DNS is resolved. So I would highly recommend that you, instead of having domain name registered somewhere and then pointed to Cloudflare and then resolved again from somewhere else, have domain your DNS service at one place. That would ease out the things, and that would make things super fast. So once you understand like DNS lookup matters in the first step of the optimization, let's go to the next step, your hosting. Hosting is the second most important. There are a bunch of factors which you guys should consider when choosing your host. The first one is the version of PHP that they offer. Unfortunately, many hosts still are on PHP 5.6, 5.4, 5.5, which is like, half as, slow as PHP 7. So please make sure that you are using good quality hosting, and the PHP version that your host offers is above 7.3. The older versions of PHP are really very slow, and these are some very basic things that you can do today to make sure or to speed up your website. Checking PHP version of your host is usually very simple. If you are in a cPanel, usually you should see which PHP version your host is offering in the cPanel itself. If you don't have a cPanel, you can contact the support of your host and ask which PHP version are you using. Does anyone know which PHP version are you on? Please make sure that you are on a PHP 7.3. Just by switching to your PHP or increasing your PHP version to more than 7.3, your website can get really fast. If you are still on PHP 5.6 or something like that, which unfortunately many hosts are still offering, PHP 7.3 is very fast, super fast, and just this one simple trick can speed up your website. Sunil seems to be 7.3. Radar Tech seems to be 7.4, which is amazing. The latest is better. Vishal Kumar is saying my website is loading in 7 seconds. Well, load time is, kind of, in my opinion, a very confusing term. More than a load time, perceived load time really matters. So that's really a confusing term. How to check PHP should contact hosting? Gaurav is asking. Yep. If you are on a cPanel, you should find your PHP version in the cPanel. Otherwise, you can just contact your host and ask support and ask like which PHP version I'm on, and please request them to upgrade to the PHP's latest version possible. So yeah, just one simple trick and your website will be much faster than before. The second question that you can ask your host is if they are supporting HTTP2 protocol. Does anyone know what is HTTP2 protocol? This is another thing that can speed up your website instantly just by switching your HTTP protocol. HTTP1 is the older protocol, and HTTP2 is the latest one, which uses latest techniques. Here's a blog post which I will I will share this slideshow after the live session so that you can see these links and you can learn about HTTP2. But to explain briefly, like HTTP is the way your browser and server communicates. Like your browser sends a request and server responds. Simple as that. That is HTTP. HTTP 1.1 was the protocol that was used for many, many, many years, from 1997 to 2015. Like internet was still on HTTP 1.1. So the way HTTP 1 protocol works is like, your browser sends a request, server responds with HTML, then CSS, JavaScript, and bunch of files. It doesn't happen parallelly. Server has to send the files, at most it can send six requests to load a web page. And further requests are queued up and users experience a slow loading time. So if you have more than 6 requests, which most or all of the WordPress websites have, getting on HTTP2 is really very important so that your files can load, can request files simultaneously. So in the HTTP one, like this is the kind of ping pong that happens. Like your server sends a request, HTML is responded, then again request, and files are responded. And in HTTP2, your browser can send multiple requests and server can respond with multiple files at a time parallelly. So please be sure to check if you are on a HTTP2, ask your host, or there are online tools which can tell if you're on HTTP2. So let's Google and see if you are on HTTP2 protocol. So the first one is from KeyCDN. HTTPS is totally different from HTTP2. HTTPS is just like securing the protocol or communication becomes secure, and HTTP2 is the generation of your protocol. So these are two different things. Yeah, but HTTP, being on HTTPS is a requirement of HTTP2. So these are two different things, yet they fall in the similar category. So let's take a look. You can Google HTTP2 test, and you will come across KeyCDN website where you can type your website URL and test if your website is on HTTP2. So yes, HTTP2 protocol is supported, which means our website is on HTTP2. Just by making sure you are on HTTP2 protocol speeds up your website by great number. And once again, like I said initially, before I started the presentation, I want to cover the fundamentals instead of just sharing bunch of plugins or a bunch of common techniques that are seen on internet elsewhere that tell do just install these plugins and speed up a website. I want to cover the fundamentals. And speeding up a website doesn't start at the WordPress level. It starts at your domain level, your host level, and these things are really very important. The most important. The fundamentals are most important. So yes, I hope that you guys are checking if your website is on HTTP2. Trijit says he's on HTTP2, which is fantastic. How about others? If you're on HTTP2, please type HTTP2. Are you guys checking if your website is on HTTP2? Fortunately, many great hosts such as SiteGround are offering HTTP2 by default, but it might be possible that your host is still offering the older version of HTTP, which is HTTP 1.1, and that might be the reason your website is slow. Like I explained in this infographic, with the HTTP 1.1 or older versions, it takes a hell lot of time to communicate with the communication between the browser and the server takes hell a lot of time because there is no parallaxing concept. Each request is processed individually. Browser cannot request many multiple files at a time. 6 is the maximum number that browser can request and server can respond. But if you're on HTTP2, your request can be processed parallelly. I have a blog post on our website which tells this in details, and I will share a link to it. I will share the link of the presentation so you can check it later and learn about it. But just by making sure that you are on HTTP2, your website will get a lot faster. Sanil says Bluehost also provides HTTP2, which is great. Seven Patel, yes, I will also tell which plugins are important and how you can use different plugins to speed up a website. Basic fundamentals. Having right DNS service, having the right hosting is really very important. Next, while choosing the hosting, please make sure that your server location is closer to your audience. Now, we at WP Astra, we have a global audience, but if we check in our Google Analytics or our analytics tools, we see that most of our traffic comes from US. So the server location that we have chosen is the US server. But let's say you have a local business and you serve mostly to Indian audience. Try to have hosting which offers server near to your audience. So if your audience is in India, try to have server which has data center in India, right? You can speak with your support of the hosting and see what kind of data centers they offer, or this is probably offered as an option while choosing the hosting by most hosting companies. This is one of the most important things, like having the server location, because what happens is when I type any website URL in the browser, the request needs to go all the way through the hosting location, and if the server or the hosting is on another end of the earth, it takes, obviously some time to reach to the server, and then server, it takes some time for server to respond back. So I'm here in India and I'm browsing some server or website which is hosted in the US. My request has to go all the way to US, and then that response has to come from the US. So obviously I will experience somewhat slower loading time, but if the server was in India and I'm here in India, I would experience a faster loading time. So make sure that you host your website where your audience is. If you're a global audience, just make sure to host the website where most of your audience is. Any ideas like where your current host or data center is located? Have you guys ever thought about this? If you guys are still there, let me know like where your data center is, where your server location is. Type the location of your data center in the chat box. I would love to see where are your websites hosted. Where is the location of your servers? Sanil says Canada, and I assume most of your visitors are from Canada or North America. That is when you should have your server located there. Bhavik says Singapore, which is great if you have your audiences, if you have audience in Asia. Mumbai, Mir Ali says Mumbai, which is great if your audience is in India. Singapore for Asian audience. Great. Yep. So server location is really very important. Probably the most important thing if you want to have a fast loading website. Should we move to the next one? Next topic? Sanil Shades says, can we shift it? Yes, absolutely. You can request your hosting company to have you shifted on a different data center. Check out the data centers that they offer, and then you can request them to shift your website to the data center, nearest data center where your audience is. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is again one of the most important aspect for having a fast website or making sure your hosting is really quality hosting. Resource allocation, especially when you are on a shared hosting. Uh, when you're starting out, we usually go with the share hosting plans, which is great for the cost reasons. Even I started with a share hosting plan. But what happens on a shared hosting plan is there are a lot of websites which are hosted on the same server, right? And sometimes servers get, there are so many websites hosted on the same server depending on the hosting company. So if you're using a very, very cheap shared hosting, make sure, ask your hosting company how's the allocation, if they allocate what kind of resources your website is allocated with, especially if you're on a shared hosting. Otherwise, what happens is since there are lots of websites that are hosted and there is a lot of traffic that comes to the server, the server gets overwhelmed and server gets slow. So ultimately, server doesn't respond in a timely manner, and you experience a slower loading time for your website. So very important if you're on a shared hosting, make sure you get proper resource allocated for your website. Try to be on a VPS or other kind of hosting plans. But for budget reasons, if you're on a shared hosting, make sure you get proper resource allocated. At least try to be on a quality hosting company, reputed hosting company, which is not like, uh, known for crowded servers or something like that. My favorite shared hosting company would be SiteGround. I love them for their support. Their servers are not overwhelmed. They offer proper resources. So, if you are looking for a shared hosting, I would highly encourage or recommend SiteGround from my side. Hey, Yuvraj. Good to see you, Yuvraj. Sevan Patel asks, what is VPS and what are the benefits? So, VPS is virtual private server. So it's not a dedicated server, but you get some resources from the server dedicated for you. So VPS really helps. Is compared to shared hosting, VPS is much much better. And there are many VPS nowadays like DigitalOcean, Linode, which offer VPS at a very similar cost as shared hosting. So I would highly encourage looking into VPS services. Vishal Kumar Veer says Cloudways. Well, yes, Cloudways offers uh, a control panel on top of VPS hosts. So Cloudways is a great company as well. Manoj says, does Bluehost offer HTTP too? Well, it really depends. Bluehost has a very wide range of servers. So you can check in the tool that I shared or just Google HTTP2 test and see if your website is on HTTP2 yet. Hey, Yuvraj, lovely to see you too. Lucky is asking, is HostGator good hosting for single domain? I wouldn't say any particular hosting is good or bad. It really depends on individual's experience. I personally have not used HostGator a lot, but I would encourage you to check out the reviews and see if it is good. If you're liking it, if your website is loading fast, if it is on PHP 7.3 plus, if it offers HTTP2, and if you feel that you get enough resources allocated, you don't have a downtime, then any host is good. Gaurav is asking his competition is very bad. are having very bad request and page load time, said they are ranking. How's it? Well, ranking depends on a lot of factors than speed. Speed is the very important factor, but it's not the only factor. So yeah, having a fast loading website is important, but there are many factors when it comes to the website rankings. So Vic Chaudhary is asking what is shared hosting. Well, shared hosting is like, one server where multiple websites are hosted from multiple customers. That's shared hosting. So the resources of that server are shared between multiple customers. So that's shared hosting. All right, let's move on to the next one. And now we are coming to actual WordPress level optimization. Again, just to remind, this is how a web page loads DNS lookup, which is where we can speed up by making sure you are using quality DNS lookup service. Then connecting to the server, PHP processing, database processing, server generates HTML response, then HTML is received by browser, and based on the static assets that are linked from HTML, like images, CSS, JavaScript, which are requested to the server again, and then those static assets are downloaded. And finally, browser loads the page. So we are optimizing at each level. So right now, we saw how PHP version is important, how having a quality hosting is important. Now we are moving to WordPress level optimization. So while choosing, when you have a WordPress website, the one of the most frequent asked question is which theme should I choose, which plugins should I install, and since there are thousands of options available, people get very confused and people get misguided, or people get confused by looking at the features, right? So on Theme Forest, you will find bunch of themes which offer bunch of features, and you get excited looking at those features. Who doesn't like features? Everyone gets excited about features, right? There are sliders, or many fonts, galleries, many scripts like for parallax effects and different effects, multiple page builders sometimes, which are bundled inside, and many things like that, right? But this is again after DNS and hosting. This is one of the most important factors when speeding up a website. Please make sure that you choose your theme and plugin carefully. Don't go just by looking at the features. Make sure that the theme or that particular plugin offers only the features that you need. If you don't need sliders, you don't have to get a theme which comes with a slider. Uh, Loading multiple fancy fonts, multiple Google fonts on a website certainly slows down a website. So make sure that your theme or you use plugins which does not load multiple fonts or multiple fancy fonts. Stay with the basic typography. Uh, if you don't need galleries or those plugins, don't install them. Don't install scripts just for the sake of having fancy effects on your website. If you're using page builder, make sure that page builder is not reputed for slow loading time. Don't just look at the features that a page builder offers. Please make sure that your page builder is reputed for speed and performance as well. So since I come from the Astra, I'm probably very biased, but I would encourage you all to take a look at the Astra theme, which my company has developed. It is one of the fastest themes out there. We are very much focused on performance, and we make sure that Astra is very, very lightweight and there is no bloat added to it. So I would highly recommend you to take a look at Astra if you're looking for a lightweight theme for your website as a foundation. Does anyone have any questions so far? Chetan Kumar is asking, what about Google hosting? Well, Google hosting is great, absolutely great. I believe SiteGround in the background uses Google servers for their hosting. Google is great by all the means. Vishal Kumar is asking newspaper versus Genesis. Well, these are two very, very different themes. Newspaper theme comes with lots of and tons of features. Personally, it's not my favorite because that's not the kind of approach that I take. I like to start clean and build upon what I need. So I would probably start with a theme framework like Genesis or Astra, our theme, and build upon it. Newspaper theme looks great, but what good your website is if it doesn't load fast or if it doesn't generate traffic, it doesn't rank in search engines. So I would encourage you. I mean, my personal approach is to start with a framework and add the features in terms of plugins as you need. Sunil is asking, is page builder mandatory? Well, absolutely not. WordPress now comes with its own kind of a page builder built in, which is called Gutenberg or blocks editor. So having a page builder is not really necessary. If you need design flexibility, I mean, you can use page builder such as Viewer Builder, Elementor, but it's not really, I mean, mandatory to have a page builder. It's just for the design flexibility. Any questions? Sunil again asking, is page builder mandatory? Yeah, which is what I just answered. Sevan Patel is asking, what's view on GeneratePress? GeneratePress is a fantastic theme as well. It's just as Astra or Genesis. Uh, it is a kind of a framework theme. It's lightweight. So it's a great theme as well. Gaurav is asking, can we ship to other theme later? Would it affect rankings? Well, certainly you can switch themes, though it might take some work, but changing a theme is always possible. Yuvraj is asking, what are my thoughts on WordPress 5.5? Well, I'm excited about WordPress 5.5 because it is coming up. It's not released yet, but it's coming up with some performance features such as lazy loading built in. So I'm really excited. Enrico is asking, did I ever try WP? I haven't tried, but I have heard about it. It's a team which I know personally, so I believe SpinUp WP should be a great platform for hosting your website, but I haven't tried it personally yet. Pocket Linko is asking, how much site should we host on unlimited websites, hosting unlimited features? Well, it really depends on the size of the website, traffic that your sites are going to get. So it really depends. So yes, choose the theme and plugins carefully. Some plugins are badly reputed for loading slow, uh, adding multiple scripts and styles on the page. So don't go with those plugins. Make sure to check reviews and ratings of the plugins that you install. Don't go crazy and install tons of plugins on your website just because you want to have those features or those plugins are recommended by someone. Always make sure that you really need that feature and then only install that plugin. And like I said, choose a lightweight framework for your theme. Don't just install a theme because it comes with bunch of features. Probably chances are that you don't need those features. I mean, choose a framework and then build on top of it instead of going with a some particular theme that offers bunch of features that are built in. Go with what you need. And again, I mean, next question is like, people ask, what is the number of plugins that I should have or maximum number of plugins that I should have on my website? Well, this is a very tricky question and probably very controversial question. People say that, I mean, don't install many plugins, but to be honest, I don't believe that is true. On our many websites, we have more than like, 70, 80 plugins sometimes. The quality of the plugins that you install is more important than the quantity, right? So there could be just one plugin which is very heavy, bloated, loads styles and scripts on each and every page of your website and slows down your website. So, I mean, that plugin is obviously not recommended. That one plugin can affect more in terms of speed than multiple plugins which are very lightweight, optimized, and just do what they are made for, right? So I don't believe that there is a magic number about number of plugins, but always make sure the quality of your plugins is great. They are lightweight. They don't add unnecessary styles and scripts. They don't unnecessarily call third-party servers or something like that. They don't unnecessarily add uh, don't necessarily add unnecessary files or cron jobs or things as such. Always try and choose lightweight plugins which offer only the features that you need. Right? So yeah, there are some plugins which are really banned by some hosting companies. So like for example, Kinsta has banned some plugins. Let's take a look at them just to give examples. So allow PHP execute, dynamic widgets, exec PHP, inactive user delete. I mean, here are some plugins which Kinsta has banned for various reasons. This seems to be a security reason. There are some social media plugins which are banned by Kinsta. This seems to be for performance reason. Of course, never ever install null plugins because null plugins usually come with malwares and they usually call third-party servers which can slow down your website. So never ever install null plugins. And here is like complete list of the banned plugins by Kinsta, and from there you can get some idea which plugins you shouldn't install. Of course, all of these are not, don't make sense because some are banned for various reasons. Because, for example, backup plugins are banned because Kinsta offers backup built in. So don't take, just word from here. Make sure you analyze and review the plugin before installing from various sources and see why those are banned or if they are like optimized for performance. All right. So after making sure your theme and plugins are carefully chosen, making sure those are optimized, making sure those are really well built, let's move to the next step, which is database. As you guys know, WordPress is made up of PHP files and database, right? So just as we optimize WordPress on the file level, we install only quality plugins and themes. Optimizing WordPress database is really very important as well. How many of you have optimized WordPress database before? Please type optimize database if you have optimized WordPress database. I would love to see how many guys are following. Would love to see how many people have tried to optimize the database. Bruno says, Bhavik says, yes, I have. Rocket Linko says, done before 3 months. Sandeep says, yes. Trijik says, no. Yes, says no. Digi Yusuf says, want to see it. Mir says, no. Kuldeep says, no. Suman says, not yet. So looks like a lot of people have not tried optimizing their database. So what happens is when you install some plugins, on your website, they obviously add some data in the database, right? And WordPress by default as well adds a lot of data in the database, which is not always needed. So for example, if you install WordFence, it will create its own tables in the database. And when you delete the plugin, those tables are not removed for various reasons. Those are good reasons, but still, it keeps your database bloated. After that, like by default, WordPress has feature called post revisions, which means you can revise or you can have multiple revisions of your post. So there are transients which save some timestamps for various reasons. There are WordPress sessions, and there are a lot of things in the database which is very rarely needed, but added in the database as you have your site or as you keep on building on your site or as your site progresses. And a lot of things are not necessary. So for example, if you install WordFence and if you decide to uninstall later, there are still database tables left in the there are still tables left in your database which need to be removed. A lot of times there are multiple post revisions which are not really needed because those posts are very old and those revisions are no more needed. Transients a lot of times are not needed to multiple WordPress sessions get expired, but still those are there in the database which need to be removed. So cleaning your database is important if you want to speed up your website. And there is a free plugin called WP Optimize, there are many free plugins which can help you optimize your database. Just install the plugin and you will find a bunch of options to optimize the database. Always make sure before performing any such optimization techniques, back up your website. Backing up a website is very easy with plugins such as Updraft Plus, or your hosting probably offers backup features. But yes, optimizing the database would speed up your website by a lot, because what happens is when the request comes from browser, goes to the server from WordPress, PHP files, and then database. And if your database is bloated, it takes a lot of time to find particular data that the request has requested, that you have requested, find it and respond to it. So the larger the database you have, or an optimized database you have, slower your website becomes. So once in a while, try to optimize your database. There are free plugins which can do this automatically, periodically, or you can do it manually by taking a backup of your site. But optimizing database is important. If you haven't done it, make sure you do it on a try it. It will certainly speed up your website. Yes, is asking how to remove them. Sometimes, plugins can help. Otherwise, you will have to go into the PHPMyAdmin, check your database, and remove the unwanted database tables if you are techie. Otherwise, if you're not techie, you can just use plugins such as WP Optimize and try to see how much database it can optimize. A lot of people are asking how to optimize database. You can Google search or find plugins in the WordPress repository, database optimization, and you will find a bunch of plugins. My personal favorite is WP Optimize. It is very widely used. It is very popular, and it does the job. Can we use more than one plugin for WP optimization? I assume you are saying database optimization, Vishal. Yes, you can certainly use more than one plugin for optimizing database. It's all it does is optimizes the database, right? So you can try multiple plugins, but I would say just stick with one plugin. And before doing any such optimization, deleting any data, always make sure to take backup. So Vic is asking transients. So transients is a feature that WordPress offers to plugin and theme developers, which is kind of a timestamp, which is used for doing some certain actions. And your themes, plugins, or even WordPress by itself uses that transient feature to save some data, to save some timestamps. But as time passes by, you get some expired transients, some expired timestamps, some expired functionalities which remain in the database, and your database gets bloated in that sense. So there are expired transients in the database which need to be removed, and you can use plugins to remove those transients and expired WordPress sessions, remove the post revisions and things like that. Gaurav is asking, can we remove WP Optimize plugin after using it? Absolutely. All it does is just optimizes the database, cleans the database, and removes unnecessary data that you had. So you can absolutely remove the plugin after using it. And that's the way to do it. just keep only the plugins that you need on the website. Remove the plugins or any features that you don't want on your site anymore. Remove them. That is the best way to do it. I hope everyone understood the importance of optimizing the database. Shall we move to the next part? Or does anyone have any questions? If everyone is following, type 10, so I would know how many people are following here, how many people are with me here. I would love to see from you guys. Type 10 if you guys are following, or if you have any questions, let me know. It looks like we have over 50 people in the live chat, so would love to hear from you all. Type 10 if you would like, if you're still following and if you're with me. Looks like a lot of people are typing 10. Sanil is asking question, if you're using WP Optimize, then should we uninstall cache and then optimize image optimizer plugins? Well, not necessarily. Database optimization is a different thing. Caching is a different thing, and image optimization is a different thing. So you don't need to clear cache or anything as such. Awesome. A lot of people have typed 10. Great to see you all are following. Awesome. Now next, most important, optimizing your images, right? On average, 34% of total web page weight is made up of images. Take any website, there are images on every single page, and on average, like images make up 34 or probably more. For bloggers, it could be less, but if you have a, kind of agency site, e-commerce site, you have lots of product images and things like that. So most web pages are made up of images. And unfortunately, though, heavy images is the most common reason for slow website. Have you guys tried to optimize images on your website? Please type images if you have tried to optimize them. But if you have never worried about optimizing images, type no images. Yash says yes. It's good to see that people have tried to optimize the images. A lot of people are typing yes. Awesome. Trijik says I always use 100 KB images. Is it okay? Well, it depends. If you have icons, then they could be a lot smaller than 100 KB, but some images can be larger than even 100 KB. It is just recommended to optimize images to the best possible level. There is no magic number like 100 KB or anything like that. But having some benchmark is really good. It's good to see that you have 100 KB as a benchmark, which could be the maximum possible. I mean, weight of the image that you use. It's good to have that kind of a benchmark, but it really depends. Pocket Linko is what image should we use question. We will cover that as well. A lot of people seem to be using Smush plugin, which is great. Darshan Mehta is typing 10. Awesome. So to optimize images, always make sure to use proper format of the image. You guys probably already know that there are different kind of formats that images are made up with. There are different formats such as JPEG, PNG, SVG, even WebP, and things like that. GIF, as you might have heard, and each format has its advantages as well as disadvantages. The two most common formats are PNG and JPEG, which are supported by all browsers. So I will talk about them. And then lastly, I will talk about WebP format, which is the latest one. So JPEG is the format which does not offer transparency. So if you have a kind of a photograph, if you have raster image, kind of a photo, like my photo, well, it's good to use JPEG format for photographs, for images which don't have transparent backgrounds. But if you have kind of vector images or images that have transparent background that have kind of shapes such as logos, etc., it's good to use PNG, which need to have transparent background. So having a proper format really helps. Besides PNG and JPEG, there are different formats such as SVG, which is great as well. SVG is good for animations. It is mostly optimized as well. Uh, and then lastly, like Google has introduced a new format for images, which is called WebP. It is now supported by most browsers as well, most modern browsers. And it's easy to convert your existing images, no matter which format they are in, to WebP by using some plugins. All you need to do is use plugins. I will talk about those plugins. They automatically convert your images to WebP and make them lightweight. We'll talk about the plugins in the next stage. Besides format, it's important to compress and resize images. So let's talk about resizing first. Let's say on some particular page, if you want to have a, like, let's take this one for example. So resizing, like this image is probably 800 by 100, right? So if you know that this is the image that is going to be viewed on a screen and the maximum size should be 800 by 100, then that is, try to resize the image and have it in a proper size. Don't embed an image which is larger, probably like 2000 by 1000 or something like that, and then resize using CSS or anything like that. Have proper size. Try to resize images properly using any tool that you like, maybe Photoshop, maybe some other tools, but resize and have the image in the proper size so that it's only as big as you need. Don't have, don't, like, if you take photographs from camera, mostly the images are very, very large, sometimes 4000 by 4000. Don't directly embed those images on your website. Resize them to the proper dimensions, maybe 1000 by 1000 or whatever, depending on the layout of your website, and then only embed. Similarly, icons, like if you are embedding icon in an area of 70 by 70 or 100 by 100, don't download the icon of 600 by 600 and embed in the 100 by 100 area. That will obviously have impact on the load of your website because those images are large unnecessarily. Next is compressing. How many of you know about image compression? Like there are various techniques to compress images. The quality remains about the same. The image looks about the same, but image becomes, the size of the image becomes, weight of the image becomes a lot smaller. How many guys have heard about image compression techniques? Lossy compression, lossless compression. There are many multiple algorithms to compress images. Have you guys heard about those? Bhavik says tiny PNG. Yes, tiny PNG is a great tool to compress images, PNG images. Deepak says yes. Yash says glossy, which is algorithm of particular plugin, I believe. Ritesh Sharma says yes. Bhavik says he's using tiny PNG. That's great. And it does the job. Short Pixel is my favorite. It's premium. It optimizes images on their server instead of your server, so your server doesn't get overwhelmed. So it's my favorite. And finally, Imagify is a premium plugin which can be used as well. So these are some plugins that you can use to optimize images. And this is, like I said, uh, easiest way to speed up a website. Just optimize the images. By just optimizing your web images, it's automatic. Just matter of installing a plugin and running the plugin. Your web page becomes much lighter, and your website would be much faster. So yeah, it's unfortunately most overlooked, but easiest to fix. You can do it today, and you can do it easily to speed up your website. Finally, lazy loading. Lazy loading is coming built in with WordPress 5.5, the next version of WordPress, which is a great news. So there are bunch of plugins, probably hundreds of plugins to lazy load your website, lazy load the images on the website. But it's coming natively in the WordPress itself, which is a great news, fantastic news. So good to see that WordPress is moving in the right direction and by default becoming more and more performance oriented, more and more optimized. Any questions so far? What should be the average size of an image? Well, it really depends, Gaurav. It depends on, I mean, what kind of image are you using? If it's a photograph, it can be 1000 by 1000. If it's an icon, it can be maybe just 14 by 14 pixels. It really depends. If you're asking about the image weight, again, it depends. It depends on the colors. I mean, the weight of the image depends on the colors. What is the data in it? If it's a raster image, if it's a vector image, generally vector images are much smaller and raster images are heavy. So it really depends again. All right, let's move to the next part, CDN. How many of you are using CDN on your website? Have you heard of the term CDN? Can you type what does the CDN stand for? CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. Yes, a lot of people are typing Content Delivery Network. So what happens is you have a main server where your WordPress is hosted, and you have bunch of static assets. Static assets such as your images, your CSS files, your JS files, your videos, and things like that. And like I said in the initial part of the session, the location of your server really matters. So let's say I'm sitting in India and trying to browse a website which is in US. Obviously, it's going to load slowly for me because every time I'm requesting files from the server which is located in the US, and there is going to be some lag or delay in the communication. Like from India, request goes to US and back and forth. But if you use CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network, and by that, what it means is it distributes your static files across the world. So your main server stays in the US, but all the static files such as images, CSS, JS are distributed across various servers across the world. So CDN has a wide network. It can have multiple servers, say in Mumbai, in Bangalore, in Singapore, in Australia, in Japan, in Dubai, so that if I'm from India and if I make a request, I mean, the main HTML would come from the main server, which is in the US, but all the static files, once I have a HTML response, would load from multiple, I mean, different server which are closer to me. So using CDN speeds up your website by a lot. So first of all, it saves the server bandwidth because it doesn't hit the main server for static assets. Your static assets are distributed across the world in multiple servers. So your server stays lightweight. Your server doesn't have to process unnecessarily for serving static assets. So it's a great benefit of using CDN. It saves a lot of bandwidth. And like I said, it distributes multiple copies of your static assets across the world. So anyone in the world can have a faster experience of your website. It's yet another overlooked, very easy to implement technique that many people don't use. Cloudflare is free, absolutely free CDN, which everyone of you can start using. The setup is easy as well. All you need to do is just point your domain and enable Cloudflare proxy. It's a proxy CDN, and it works great. But if you don't use Cloudflare for any reason, or if you're not looking for proxy CDN for any reason, you can go with other alternatives such as Bunny CDNs, which are premium. They are very cost effective as well. So, I mean, look into the options of CDN, but having CDN will speed up your website by a lot. Enrico says he's using Bunny CDN, which is great. Pocket Linko says Harsh has made video on CDN. That's awesome. Please be sure to check the video. I'm sure Harsh has covered that in detail, so be sure to check it out. It's yet another very easy to implement technique, but most people don't use it just because they don't have the technical knowledge. And since Harsh has already made a video on it, I would encourage you to watch the video. It's very easy and it will speed up your website for your audience across the world very easily. Should we move to the next part, which is my favorite, caching? Sandeep Singh says StackPath CDN, awesome. It's a premium CDN and they are very reputed too. So StackPath is great. Who else is using CDN? If you don't use CDN, type no CDN. So probably we can arrange or we can share the link of the video. Harsh, probably you can share the link of the video that you have made on the CDN for anyone who doesn't have a CDN. Awesome. Awesome. Yes, CDN is a great way to speed up the website by a lot and easily. These are all simple techniques that I'm sharing. Again, we haven't used a lot of plugins or anything like that. I'm covering the fundamentals which you can implement today to make sure your website is fast. After all these fundamentals are implemented, then comes installing plugins or but these are just fundamentals. All right, let's move to the next part, which is very important and my favorite. Very misunderstood as well, caching. How many of you are using a caching plugin on your site? Or better yet, I would love to know, can anyone solve this math that is on the screen? 290 into 8 by 10. What is the answer? I would love to have the answer from you guys. Maybe you can use your calculator, use Google or whatever, but would love to see what is the answer. What is 290 into 8 by 10? All right, Gaurav has the answer here, 232. Yash has an answer as well, 232. I hope you guys used a calculator or something like that to find the answer, right? The answer is 232. Vishal has the answer, Ritesh has answer, Pocket Linko has answer. Awesome, 232. You guys are correct. And now once again, solve the same math. What is 290 multiplied by 8 divided by 10? What is the answer? Is it the same? If it is the same, type, and if you did not use calculator or if you did not take any help, type same. So Vik is asking what is caching in. That is what I'm trying to explain with this example. 290 into 8 by 10. The answer is 232. Now, I would like to have the same answer again. 290 into 8 by 10. The answer is same, right? Like first time you had to use a calculator, you had to use your brain or pen and paper to get the answer. You had to do some processing to get the answer. But the next time, when I asked the same question, the answer is the same. That time you did not have to use any calculator or you did not have to use pen and paper or like do any computing. The answer remains the same. That's what is the caching. When you solve some particular question, if the same question gets asked again, you already have the answer and you give the answer instantly. That is what is the caching. Our website is like a solving math as well. It has a bunch of PHP files, database, and stuff like that, right? So when you open a website, what happens is PHP files are processed. Like, it goes to index.php, it opens your theme files, it goes to plugins, it does a bunch of PHP calculations, it goes to database, and then HTML is generated and then sent to the visitor. I mean, huge complex math is solved by your server in order to process the request by user. And now, if you're not using caching, what happens is this math happens every single time your website is opened, which is inconvenient. Like, what if I ask you to do this math again and again on calculator when you already know the answer? So that is what is the caching. What caching does is, like, when you implement caching on a website, if server processes some particular query, it saves a response, and when next time user asks the same query or visits the same URL, it already knows the answer, it already has the response ready, so the response is sent immediately. So that is what is essentially caching. Does that make sense? I hope this made sense. This made you guys understand what is caching. Caching, once again, is essentially like, solving the math once or processing the website once and having the response ready. So that next time, if the same URL is visited, server already knows what to respond. It doesn't have to go in the PHP files. It doesn't have to go in the database. It doesn't have to load a bunch of different PHP files to get the response. So without caching, it's like you solve a huge math and then respond to every single user every single time a request is made. So that's what is the caching. Did that make sense? Gaurav is asking, what are cookies? Cookies are different. Caching is different. It's cache and cache memory same. Well, there are different types of caches. So first of all, the cache is in your browser, and secondly, the cache is on the server. So what happens is when you load a website, let's say server responds with images, CSS files, and things like that. And now you open the same website, same URL again. Browser says, I already have the CSS, images, etc. So I wouldn't request it from the server. Browser saves the copy of the CSS and images in the browser itself, right? So that is the caching in the browser side. So that's why you might have heard multiple times that clear the cache of your browser. And then there is a caching on the server, which works like, PHP database, the same concepts that I explained just now. If those are already processed and the HTML is already generated, it keeps the copy of HTML on the server itself in some folder. So instead of going and processing the WordPress whole once again, it has the HTML response ready and it sends the HTML response right away. So it doesn't have to process all the PHP files, look up in the database, and then serve the response. So there are mainly two types of caches. First is the browser cache, and second is the server cache. Browser cache is like small memory in the browser itself. It stores mostly static files like images, because browser has already done the job of loading images, etc. Browser doesn't load the images once again, doesn't load the CSS files once again. And server cache is pretty similar. If it has generated HTML response by processing PHP, it doesn't generate it once again. Browser cache works by default, but you have, for your website, you have to enable caching on your website by your own. You have to enable it customly. Some hosts offer caching by default, and if your host doesn't offer caching, you can use some plugins, which we will take a look in just the next few slides. But I'm interested to know if you guys have understood so far. Backlinko says, thank you for valuable time. Well, pleasure is mine. Thank you so much, Backlinko. Pocket Linko says, I had enabled caching in both WP Rocket as well as Cloudflare. Will it affect? Well, those are two very different caches. Cloudflare is a CDN, and WP Rocket is caching plugin. So WP Rocket generates HTML files, and Cloudflare generates cache of your static assets such as images, CSS. So those are two very different caches, and having those two together is absolutely encouraged. So caching makes a lot of difference. There are multiple layers of caches. The first one, like we discussed, is the cache at the browser level. And the second is the cache at the server level, which generates the HTML and responds with the HTML. The third one is at the database level. So in the previous few slides, we saw how database can get bloated, and it takes some time to check out the values from the database. And there can be cache implemented on the database side as well, so that your server doesn't always need to scan the whole database to find the value that it needs. So caching can be on the database level as well. The next, caching can be on the CDN level as well. So for example, like I said, there is a CDN. Your static assets are loaded and served by CDN. So once your files are saved on the CDN, there can be cache. So it doesn't always request files from the server. So yeah, this is caching. And once again, to explain it simply, I gave a simple, example like this particular question. If I ask again and again, you already have the answer, and the providing the answer next time is very easy. And if for some reason I ask you to calculate again and again using calculator, it takes some time. So without caching, the same thing happens. Your server does the math again and again for no reason, even though it already has the answer. So caching is really very recommended, very recommended. Most servers nowadays, like most hosting company nowadays, offer caching by default. For example, I know that SiteGround offers caching by default. A lot of hosting companies have started to offer caching by default. But for some reason, if your host does not offer caching, I would encourage you guys to take a look at plugins such as WP Rocket, W3 Total Cache, which is free, which offer caching solutions. Right? Is everything clear so far? Will caching speed up our website? So Vic asks, absolutely. Without caching, like I said, it's like doing the same math again and again. using the calculator, even though you already know the answer. So caching absolutely speeds up the website by hell a lot of time. It cuts down a lot of time. So caching is absolutely recommended. Use hosting which offers caching built in, but if for some reason your host, or if you want to try premium options, you can try plugins such as WP Rocket, which is premium, or there are multiple free plugins such as WP W3 Total Cache, WP Super Cache, and there are many caching plugins available in the market. Any questions so far? Sevan Patel asks, if we don't clear cache in the browser, what happens? Well, nothing really happens. It just loads the files that it already has in the cache memory of your browser. So let's say, if the image on the server gets changed, and if you don't clear the cache of your browser, then you will still get the old image file. But this is a very rare case. In most cases, you don't need to clear the cache of your browser. It all happens automatically. Pocket Linko says without caching. Yeah, anyone visits your website, it needs to load all the files again and again. Yes, absolutely. That's why caching is recommended. So there you go, guys. Like, these are like all the fundamentals and my style for optimizing your website. Once again, like, please understand how a web page loads before you try to optimize a website. Like, whenever you type any website URL in the browser, DNS gets looked up, DNS gets connected to the server. And obviously, this is a WordPress website which is made up of PHP and database. So PHP gets processed, from there, call goes to the database, HTML file is generated and sent to the browser. Again, depending on server location, it takes some time in between. And then once you have the browser gets the HTML, it gets the idea of all the images, CSS that are linked from the HTML. And then the call goes back to the server. All images, CSS, JS again are called back. And that's how your your website loads. And if your files are large, your CSS, images, JavaScript files are large, it obviously is going to take more time. So optimizing at every single step is important. And then comes, like, rendering and more complex questions about speeding up a website, which we probably can cover in the next session, or soon we can cover those. But I wanted you guys to understand how a web page loads, and these are the fundamentals when it comes to optimizing a website. Once, to remind, make sure you use a premium DNS service. Cloudflare is my favorite. Make sure your hosting has PHP 7.3. Make sure you guys are on HTTP 2. I'm going to share this slide and this so that you can find these links and see what is HTTP 2 if you are on HTTP 2. Make sure your server location is close to where your traffic comes from, where your audience is. If you're on a shared hosting, make sure your server is not overloaded. You use quality hosting. Choose your themes and plugins very carefully. Don't just look at the features. Don't get just excited looking at the features. Choose very lightweight, bare bone things, and add only things that you need. And once again, quality. It's okay to have more plugins as long as well-coded plugins. I strongly believe that quality is more important than quality. So don't have a benchmark that I'm going to have only 10 plugins on my site. It's okay to have more plugins, but all of them should be quality plugins. Next is, be sure to optimize your database frequently. There is bunch of data that gets added in your database very, very frequently. So be sure to optimize. There are free plugins. And if you're using premium options such as WP Rocket, it comes with options such as optimization of database periodically, automatically. But always make sure to have a backup of your website before optimizing database or deleting anything. Optimize images. It's easy with plugins such as Smush. My favorite is Short Pixel, which is premium. Use proper formats of the images, compress and resize images. Make sure you're using lazy loading. Have CDN. It's very easy to use CDN such as Cloudflare, which is free. And then lastly, and most importantly, have caching in place, because your server, do a favor on your server, and don't let your server do the math again and again. Have caching in place so that, it will do a huge favor on your server, your visitors as well, because your website will load blazing fast. Once these things are done, you can have other levels or other things implemented, such as having gzip compression, disabling emojis, and many advanced topics such as choosing whether nginx server or lightspeed server or apache server. There are many things that we can talk about when it comes to speeding up a WordPress website. But I hope, I in this session, in the limited time that we are already, more than 1 hour 30 minutes in this session. So I hope this session was helpful. I would be taking some questions if you guys have any. Harsh or anyone, please feel free to ask any questions on behalf of users, or I would be looking at the comments.
All right, Sujay. That was fantastic. Very interesting session. And the way you explained cache, that was mind blowing. So, guys, if you really enjoyed this session, give emojis 2 thumbs up. If you really like it, if you really enjoyed this, give 2 thumbs up so that we know like you are engaged. And of course, I could see like a lot of people are engaged. And Sujay, you have taken, I believe, almost all the question while doing the session itself. But let's take 2 3 more question before we call it a day. Uh, yes, Pocket Info, you have also added a lot of value with all your question and input. Perfect.
Absolutely. Pocket Info, thank you so much.
Okay, so Gaurav has this question. You did say something about removing unused CSS and JavaScript file. I believe that's what he meant. Sujay, that's a question. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just looking for you did mention, you did not say about removing unused CSS and JS. It's important, right? Yes, absolutely. But these are some very advanced topics. There are plugins such as Asset Cleanup, which can help you remove unused CSS and JS. These are quite advanced topics, and those are for, later day. In this session, I wanted to cover fundamentals. There are many more things that can be done when it comes to optimizing the website. Of course, you can remove unused CSS, JavaScript files, and it can be done using a plugin called the one that I just mentioned. Yep.
Yeah, guys. So here's the thing. Like what Sujay said, if your website is loading in 6, 7, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, just by implementing all these 7 tips, you would be able to bring it down to 2.53 seconds easily. Now, the further optimization we are talking about, the advanced optimization will help you to reduce it by 0.5 second, 1 second, which definitely makes sense. But in most of the cases, if you are doing it for your website or even if you're serving somebody, a client or somebody else, you can implement this tip and reduce your load time by at least easily 60 70% with all these 7 tips. They work brilliantly. Okay, so let's take one last question. Sujay, do you want to pick a question?
Sure, I'm looking for some new questions. Yuvraj asks, what is 80/20 of speeding up a website? I would say hosting is what really matters the most, and choosing quality theme and plugins. So be sure that you are on quality host, you are using quality, lightweight themes such as Astra or Genesis or your favorite one. Make sure you don't install plugins just because you like them. So that is what I would say is the 80/20 rule of speeding up a website.
Lovely, lovely. Uh, all right, Sujay. So we moved. This is you definitely get an award for the longest session ever on my channel. So congratulations, along with your 1 million active installation for Astra theme. It's fantastic, Sujay, and we could not be more proud than this. You are doing a fantastic job bringing earning so many anecdotes in your journey, and definitely I wish you best of luck. Any last word that you want to share with our audience?
Thank you so much for all the love. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope the session was valuable. If anyone wants to get in touch, feel free to follow me on Twitter. My links are here. I am sharing the slide on my screen. I hope you guys can still see my screen. So my handle everywhere is pretty much Sujay Pawar. Feel free to get in touch with me on Facebook, Twitter, or visit our website wpastra.com. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope I will see you soon in the next session.
Yeah, and definitely check out WP Astra blog. It's a very good blog on everything related to WordPress. So you'll find a lot of great resources there. And definitely WP Astra theme is free theme to start with. And if you want more features, you can always go for pro feature. But we'll definitely do a session on uh, WP Astra about the WordPress theme in the days to come. And thank you, Sujay. It's lovely having you here. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you guys soon.
Bye. See you soon.
All right, guys. So, how was it? I believe I learned a lot from Sujay, and I hope you enjoyed this session and also the session before with Andrea on Instagram marketing. Uh, and I was sure that Sujay would add a lot of value, and he did. Now, you have to tell me one very important thing. What is the next session you want to see? What kind of topic you would like to see here on our YouTube channel? Uh, how about funnel marketing? How about WordPress security? How about some part of affiliate marketing or SEO? So let me know exactly what topic you want. And let's see what all suggestion we have. It was overpowered and explained in word. Definitely, we will. Sujay is one of the most willing teacher, and we'll definitely have him on the show again. Uh, Another session for WP security. Perfect. I think would very much like to talk about WP security or WordPress theme, or we'll see about that. Sujay, I think like you won the heart of many people today. Guys, do follow him on Twitter, LinkedIn. He's one of those guys who talk very sensible stuff about WordPress, and one of yeah. So definitely follow him everywhere. Okay, so we are getting a lot of requests for WP security, WordPress security. Definitely, that's a good point. Ritesh wants something about sales funnel. Uh, Parvez wants something about affiliate marketing. Nitin wants about auto blogging. Sorry, we don't touch that topic. We don't like auto blogging. I don't like auto blogging. It's my personal thing. The WordPress security, I guess. Blog funnels. That's a very good topic. Maybe we should touch base. Oh, how about email marketing, guys? How many of you are interested in email marketing? Yuvraj, I did one video on monetization sometime back. You can find in the archive of my channel about how to make money online, how to make money from blogging. It's a good 45 minutes webinar where you can find everything about a lot of steps on making money from the blog. Yeah, backlink building would be a very good topic. I know many of you would be interested in that. I want to know about the secrets to blogging. If I would tell you about that, then what what would be the secret, right? But hey, I'm just kidding. We'll definitely touch base that. Uh, Advanced WordPress speed optimization. Definitely that would be good. I think like we should touch base that. Maybe I would ask Sujay to do another second part of it and talk about this advanced WordPress speed optimization. But guys, if you're liking this, do thumbs up. Do give thumbs up. There is a like button. Do click that like button. I believe most of you are subscribed to Shout Me Loud to this channel. If you're not subscribed to this channel, do subscribe. You can always save videos to watch it later in case if you're in hurry, you can always save the video to watch it later. That way you would not miss out on such information which you would not get anywhere else. Uh, so traffic driving, perfect. So guys, those are amazing topic. Thank you for all the suggestion. I'll see maybe next week I'll have a special guest talking about a very special topic which you're going to love. Maybe the idea is that we might move it to Zoom, and I'll definitely do initial announcement on our YouTube channel, but we'll be probably make this a private webinar where you will be where you'll have to opt in to become to watch these videos. Why I'm doing this, I'll tell you the reason sometime soon. But that's about it, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's lovely having you. It's lovely adding value in your life. Thank you, Sujay, for being on the show today. Bye bye. Sabak Take care.